The end is yet to be seen in the alleged financial corruption scandal rocking the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, as documents emerged that the minister, Betta Edu, allegedly disbursed 585,198,500 naira into the personal account of a project accountant. According to a viral document signed by Edu and directed to the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the minister instructed the disbursement of funds to one Oniyelu Bridget. The document also showed that the payment of the over 585 million naira grant meant for vulnerable groups in Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Ogun, and Lagos states was made into Oniyelu's account. However, reacting to the development, the Special Assistant on Media and Publicity to the Minister, Rashid Olanrewaju Zubair, said the payment for the vulnerable group followed due process. He stated that the payment of the grant to the account of an individual, Oniyelu Bridget, was because the fellow currently served as the project accountant of grants for vulnerable groups. And in a twist, the Accountant General of the Federation, Oluwatoyin Madein, has clarified that the Office of the Accountant General does not make payments on behalf of MDAs for projects and programs implemented by the ministries, departments, and agencies. The AGF was reacting to media reports concerning a request from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation for payment of grants to vulnerable groups in some states of the Federation. In a statement in Abuja, the AGF explained that although her office received a said request from the ministry, it did not carry out the payment. According to her, the ministry was, however, advised on the appropriate steps to take in making such payments in line with the established payment procedure. The AGF noted that in such situations, payments are usually processed by the affected ministries as self-accounting entities, adding that no bulk payment is supposed to be made to an individual's account in the name of project accountant. She added that such payment should be sent to the beneficiaries through the verified bank account. And the public affairs analyst, Dr. Salahuddin Hashim, is joining us via Zoom to give his insight on the back and forth in the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. Welcome to the News Hour, Dr. Salahuddin. First, let's start with your reaction on the current developments in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. The Minister's office says the payment is legal and valid. The Office of the Accountant General is in a rejoinder, says it had refused to carry out the directive. What do you make of all of this?
All right, thank you very much for having me. I think, first of all, the minister had actually contravened the Nigerian Financial Regulation 2009, which stipulates very clearly in Section 7, Chapter 7 and Section 713, that at no point should actually public funds be disbursed into a private account or vice versa. But unfortunately, there is a clear violation, and that particular section went further to say very clearly that in instances where such must have happened, that it actually suggests that there is an intent for fraud to actually be perpetrated. And that for me is very clear. And this is actually a test of integrity on Mr. President to first of all translate a query to the minister and make this particular process an open process so that at least citizens can also perhaps use this as a litmus test on his accountability mantra. The minister had violated the Financial Regulation Act, and as a public officer, I think at this point there's a need for her to recuse herself from every ongoing investigation. And it is also very clear that at no point can you or do you have power under the regulation to approve such amount into a private account? And there are lots of questions that the minister needs to answer. One, why should such kind of amount go into a private account? Two, why and what does the financial regulation says in instances like this? And the third one would be very clearly, is she the accounting officer of her ministry? These three questions are the things that the president should be asking. Right. And the reason why the financial regulation had made this very clear is because it actually tries to insulate politics from the business of governance. Right. Because, of course, there are tendencies. And, of course, the founding fathers actually forecasted and knew very clearly that a time will come when you would have individuals like this in government, that there should be some level of guide in terms of how government finances should actually be handled.
Doctor,
but I think fundamentally there's a clear violation and somebody needs to answer for it.
Okay, for the sake of time, Doctor, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs seems to be in the eye of the storm. For instance, its former minister currently has a case to answer, at the EFCC. The national coordinator, of course, has also been invited, and very recently, the current minister, of the ministry, barely 5 months in, has also been accused of carrying out individual payments to an individual account. Now, Doctor, what do you make out of all of this, especially when a lot of Nigerians are currently looking to this ministry for succor in terms of social investment and social intervention in their lives because of Nigeria's current economic realities?
70% of activities and projects going on within that particular ministry, perhaps it can be considered as opportunistic. Opportunistic because they are trying to exploit ongoing situation as an intervention for government to provide safeguard. There is no serious government anywhere in the world that actually provides handouts to its citizens. What you do is build and establish infrastructure where people can actually engage constructively in meaningful enterprise, provide enabling environment, and of course offer that kind of situation where people can actually transact with little or no bottlenecks. But unfortunately, government has failed in terms of the provision of those infrastructure, and then of course the ease of doing business hasn't become something that is very fundamental or a priority on government's own agenda. And then of course it then offers an opportunity for people, particularly in that particular ministry, to continue to suggest to the president that offering handouts to citizens or less privileged is the best way to go. And I've asked questions in the past to say, look, offer us and give us what your social register looks like. Okay. The integrity of the social register in itself tells you very clearly who are the beneficiaries, and if indeed these particular individuals are benefiting or getting some level of asset. And the question that came, or the answer that came to my question was that even the poor are not, should be protected in terms of their identity, and that we cannot have access to that social register. Okay. And I think as media practitioners, some of the things you should ask is actually to provide you with a social register. Okay. And then of course, we can actually check the integrity of that particular register and see if indeed that fits in. Okay. If you ask me, I think there's a lot of sharp practices going on in the name of the poor. There is something that is regarded as poverty baron, people who are indeed drinking champagne on behalf of the poor. And that is exactly what is going on within the spheres of the humanitarian ministry. And the president should be wary and take cognizance of this political greed that is happening just before him and now within his own particular sphere, that there are rascals within the system who are beginning to exploit the economic gap to be able to enrich themselves. This in itself is unacceptable. Citizens must actually resist this in every sphere.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for sharing your perspectives on the news hour tonight, particularly on the issues in the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. Thank you so much and have a good evening.